In 2004, a Volkswagen Phaeton W12 started at $94,600 in the United States. Today, Edmunds places a 2004 Phaeton somewhere between roughly $1,000 and $12,000, depending on condition, mileage, and options. That means an $8,000 example is not fantasy. But this is not a $95,000 car that somehow became an $8,000 car. It is still a $95,000 car. $8,000 is simply the admission price. Under the discrete body sits air suspension, permanent all-wheel drive, 2 batteries, layers of networked electronics, and, in the flagship version, a 6-liter W12. The badge says Volkswagen. The engineering says cost was somebody else's problem. The Phaeton did not fail because Volkswagen could not build a world-class luxury car. It failed because Volkswagen proved it could, then discovered that technical excellence and market desire are not the same thing. Volkswagen unveiled the Phaeton at the Geneva Motor Show on March 6, 2002. This was not a larger Passat, and it was not a styling exercise. The factory code was Type 3D, the body stretched beyond 5 meters, and Volkswagen entered the same conversation as the Mercedes S-Class, BMW 7 Series, and Audi A8. The company developed more than 100 patents for the car. Even the factory was part of the statement. Phaetons were assembled almost completely by hand at the transparent factory in Dresden. Volkswagen describes bright halls, workers dressed in white, many wearing gloves, and floors finished in Canadian mountain maple and German moor oak. That sounds less like the birthplace of a family hatchback and more like a luxury atelier. Yet the Phaeton refused to advertise its ambition. Its lines were clean, formal, and deliberately quiet. There was no giant grille, no exotic badge, and no attempt to make every pedestrian understand the invoice. For the right buyer, that was the point. The Phaeton was anonymous first class. A car for somebody who wanted the experience of a flagship without broadcasting the purchase. For the market, that discretion became the first problem. Open the door and the obsession becomes easier to see. Wooden panels covered the climate vents, then moved electrically and silently when airflow was required. The 4-zone system was designed to cool the cabin without blasting occupants with a draft. Optional front seats adjusted 18 ways and could heat, ventilate, and massage. Adaptive air suspension was standard. Thick glass, a rigid body, and aluminium for the bonnet, doors, and boot lid helped isolate the cabin. A long wheelbase version added 120 mm for rear passengers. Then came the engines. The entry Phaeton used a compact 3.2-liter V6, 15-degree cylinder banks, and 241 metric horsepower. In 2003 came the 4.2-liter V8, 335 metric horsepower and 430 Newton-meters. The 3-liter V6 TDI followed a year later, became the most popular version, and eventually reached 245 metric horsepower. Those sensible choices do not explain the Phaeton legend. The early 6-liter W12 made 420 metric horsepower. Later cars made 450. Volkswagen formed it from 2 narrow-angle V6 units, creating a compact W layout with 12 cylinders ahead of the cabin. Volkswagen quoted 5.9 seconds to 60 miles per hour in United States specification. This was a 5-meter luxury saloon wearing the same badge as a Golf. And the W12 was not the strangest option. The 5-liter V10 TDI used 2 variable geometry turbochargers. It made 313 metric horsepower, but the headline was 750 Newton-meters. Volkswagen described it as the most powerful diesel saloon in the world at the time. That engine captured the Phaeton philosophy: technically extraordinary, commercially unnecessary, and irresistible to anyone who reads engine codes for entertainment. The Phaeton's problem was not what it could do. It was what buyers believed a Volkswagen should mean. At $94,600, the W12 was less expensive than some 12-cylinder rivals. But customers shopping near 6 figures were not simply buying cylinders, leather, or climate zones. They were buying identity, dealer treatment, resale confidence, and a badge that explained the decision before the car moved. Volkswagen asked those customers to ignore the badge hierarchy and judge the machine. Many did not. The understated design made the argument harder. Park an early Phaeton beside a contemporary Passat, and a non-enthusiast might see family resemblance before craftsmanship. That visual restraint delighted owners who understood it, but it weakened the showroom theatre that normally helps justify a flagship price. Volkswagen kept improving the car. GP1 arrived in 2007, GP2 in 2008, the larger GP3 facelift in 2010, and final GP4 changes in 2013. Engines, assistance systems, infotainment and cabin details evolved. But refinement could not repair the basic equation. After 84,235 cars, including pre-series vehicles, Phaeton production ended in Dresden on March 18, 2016. Volkswagen had developed a successor called Phaeton D2. It remained a one-off as the brand redirected its strategy toward electric mobility. The original car left behind a stranger legacy. It was convincing enough to prove Volkswagen belonged in the luxury class, but not desirable enough to make buyers forget the word Volkswagen. Depreciation becomes brutal when a car has a small buyer pool and a large technical footprint. The Phaeton has both. Edmunds currently places a 2004 example between $976 and $12,067, depending on mileage, options, and condition. An $8,000 Phaeton can therefore look like one of the greatest luxury bargains ever made. And in hardware terms, it might be. But depreciation only discounts the person selling the car. It does not negotiate with the suspension compressor, climate modules, cooling system, or diagnostic computer. The Phaeton uses 2 batteries in the boot. Owner Club guidance warns that low voltage can trigger faults across multiple systems, including engine and air suspension messages. That does not always mean the expensive component named on the dashboard has failed. It means diagnosis matters before parts are thrown at the car. Water ingress is another inspection point. The keyless entry and start module can be vulnerable if blocked drains allow water into the footwell. Power steering lines can corrode. Paint blistering appears on some doors and boot lids. None of those issues condemns every Phaeton. Together they explain why the cheapest example can become the most expensive way to own one. A neglected luxury car does not lose complexity as it loses value. It only loses the owner who was paying to keep that complexity invisible. The first rule is simple. Do not buy the advertisement, buy the evidence. Start with service invoices, not a stamped book alone. Then arrange a pre-purchase inspection with a Volkswagen or Audi specialist who understands large, networked VAG cars. Scan every module with proper diagnostic equipment. Test every climate zone, seat function, window, lock, soft close feature, screen and switch. Leave the car parked long enough to see whether one corner of the air suspension begins to sag. Check both batteries and charging voltage. Inspect the footwells, plenum and sunroof drains for moisture. Look closely at the lower doors, boot lid and power steering lines. Verify tire age and whether all 4 tires match. Then match the engine to the life you actually intend to give it. The 3.0 TDI became the volume choice, especially in Europe, but diesel emissions equipment and short-trip use still demand market-specific inspection. The 4.2 V8 avoids the theatre and rarity of the 12-cylinder car, but fuel use and engine bay labour remain flagship territory. The W12 and V10 TDI are the collector's answers. They are also the versions least suited to a buyer stretching to reach the purchase price. Finally, check open recalls by vehicle identification number. A model year search is not enough. Recall applicability and completion belong to the individual car, and keep a reserve. If the first repair would force you to sell the car, you cannot afford the car, regardless of what the classified advertisement says. The Volkswagen Phaeton is special because it exposes the difference between engineering value and market value. Volkswagen built a 5-meter flagship with more than 100 patents, a hand-finished factory, draft-free climate control, air suspension and engines ranging all the way to a W12 and a twin-turbo V10 diesel. It gave the car almost everything a luxury buyer could ask for. Everything except a luxury badge. That made the Phaeton a difficult new car proposition and a fascinating used one. At $8,000, it can deliver an experience that modern economy cars cannot approach. It can also preserve the running cost logic of a car that once cost $94,600 before options. So the Phaeton did not fail as a car. It failed as a product equation. Buy a documented, inspected example with the right engine and a serious reserve, and it may be one of the smartest ways to experience obsessive early 2000s engineering. Buy the cheapest W12 because the monthly payment looks easy, and the Phaeton may teach you exactly why depreciation is not the same as affordability. Would you choose this over an Audi A8, BMW 7 Series, or Mercedes S-Class? Tell us below and subscribe to Speed TV 21 for more researched car stories, engine legends, and buyer warnings.